All right, guys, we're going to rock and roll here shortly on the program. Friday on the I Love CVille show. We're in good spirits today. Dylan's Rule, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you kindly for joining us. You got yours turned on there, J-Dubs? Yeah. Is your mic in front of you?
No, it's not.
Some of the viewers and listeners are saying they cannot hear you. There we go. Thank you, J-Dubs. A lot I want to cover on the program today. I want to have a fun Friday program. What's your favorite restaurant in town, Judah? Have I ever asked you that?
Let's see. I think it depends on my mood. I really like La Michoacana. I really like Fabio's.
Thank you, Ginny Who, for the retweet. You like that High Street corridor, huh?
It's on my way home.
How do you go High Street home?
Well, I don't
You live
usually.
off Rio.
I don't usually go that way just to go home. But if I'm heading home and I need to stop somewhere, I'll head down that way to go to Wawa or Food Lion or the ABC store.
What are you getting at the ABC store?
Usually alcohol.
What are you getting at the ABC store? The man answers with alcohol.
Tequila.
One of a kind, Judah Wakara, one of a kind. We can rock and roll when you're ready. What do you get at the ABC store? Usually alcohol.
Tequila. I was being sarcastic and joking. Sorry that rubbed you the wrong way.
I didn't rub me the wrong way. I just don't think
let's
anyone realized that you
see.
were being sarcastic or joking.
Quiet on the set.
Good Friday afternoon. It's the I Love CVille show. Thank you kindly for joining us live in our studio in downtown Charlottesville. It's great to be with you guys. Thank you for a fun week of show content today. This week. The network is expanding. We, in very excited fashion, welcome Hillary Lewis Murray and the Juicy Details to the network this month. Her second show was this past Wednesday. Kyle Miller is back after some being out of the studio with some health issues. He's back this coming Thursday in his 2:15 slot. And we are on the cusp of launching 2 additional shows on this network that will likely fill the Tuesday 2:15 slot and either Monday or Friday at 2:15 p.m. We're focused on growing the network from a female perspective, from a woman perspective. Judah doesn't like when I use the word female. From a woman perspective. And making the network as well-rounded and as diverse in its thought and delivery as possible. So I'm excited to potentially offer you some expansion news as early as maybe next week. A couple of items I want to get out of the notebook. I sent you these links, Judah. The first, if we can go to the one on the Central Virginian, it's the LoopNet listing. If you can put the photos on screen, I want to highlight a couple of buildings that are for sale and or for lease that have been sent my way. This is the Central Virginian in Louisa County. The home to the Central Virginian newspaper is currently for sale. Central Virginian for sale. Give us the thumbs up when those photos are on screen. The building size is 3,750 square feet. It's got an asking price of $475,000, a price per square of $127 a square foot. It's a 23-year-old building. Plenty of parking, 20 parking spaces. In fact, 5.33 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of lease space. The Central Virginian newspaper, the building for sale, asking price $475,000. Of course, newspapers don't need headquarters anymore. This isn't the only newspaper that is passing or it's shedding its physical presence. The CVille Weekly on the downtown mall is now home to, is it President Kennedy, a hopeful candidate that's running for president? His campaign headquarters. Am I right there, Judah?
Yeah. definitely.
What do you know about that candidate?
I know that his family is not very a lot of his family, I think, is not very happy with him being, I think.
Are you on a two-shot?
Just about. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, I think his family is not happy that he's going to be opposing Biden. I'd be happy to have a third-party candidate.
We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Let me know when the LoopNet photos are on.
I got to download them.
The newspaper business is just not a business that needs much physical presence anymore. The Daily Progress previously was headquartered on Rio Road. I know that building intimately, worked there for years. It was home to its printing press. It was home to its advertising department. It was home to its print and editorial team. It was a pretty, at one time, vast headquarters. In fact, the Daily Progress, its headquarters used to be across the street from where our studio is located on Market Street. If you look at the building that's directly across from where I'm sitting right now, right next to the Enterprise Center, you can still see the markings of the original Daily Progress sign from its Market Street location. They used to print the newspaper on Market Street. The staff used to work there. They used to come out of its Market Street location and have a couple of beverages on the downtown mall. And then they moved to Rio Road from the city of Charlottesville to Albemarle County. I thought it was a perplexing move, why you would move from the heartbeat of town, where the courts are, where the police department is, where the judges, the attorneys, the bankers, the business owners, where the commerce, the heartbeat of commerce is, to Class C space on Rio Road. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It really diminishes the brand exposure of what the Progress had in downtown Charlottesville. But its location on Rio Road, as I mentioned, I knew extremely well. It was a large headquarters, and I watched firsthand as that headquarters slowly got chopped down. They moved the printing press out of the newspaper, out of Rio Road, and once Media General, so here's a little history of the paper. The Worrell family owned the Daily Progress. The Worrell family sold to Media General. Media General was a newspaper and media conglomerate. Media General sold to the Warren Buffett media outfit. Warren Buffett sold to Lee Enterprises, the current owner right now. The current owner right now is looking to trim as much fat as humanly possible. And some of the fat trimming maneuvers done by not only Lee Enterprises, but also by Warren Buffett's organization, certainly in the latter stages of Media General's ownership, was taking the printing press outside or away from Charlottesville, literally causing the loss of jobs for 10 or 12 printing press operators that knew no other line of work, that literally were working on a printing press from high school years until well into their 40s, 50s, and 60s. They then moved the advertising and editorial teams, and they pretty much had them go remote. Now you have newspaper hubs, where one hub is doing the designing and the printing for a bunch of newspapers. So what Lee's trying to do is utilize economies of scale and a vertically integrated concept where it prints one newspaper, where it prints a bunch of newspapers from one location, has one design team for a bunch of locations, and basically has its staff working in remote capacities. And we're seeing this with the Central Virginian newspaper. The Central Virginian is a relied upon brand in Louisa County. The Central Virginian is got a pretty significant history. I would love, let me see if I can give you the exact history. Since 1912, the Central Virginian has served Louisa County and Lake Anna. Do you have those photos on screen?
Not yet.
That's taken a long time.
Some of them are not working. I can put a few of them on.
Yeah, a few is better than none.
Here we go.
Show us, got a thumbs up?
Yeah.
This paper's been around since 1912. buildings for sale right now. What do you think is the future of when my kids get high school age, college age of media locally, Judah?
Could you repeat that?
What do you think the future is of media when my kids locally get to high school? I mean, say 10 years from now. When's the last time you've watched television?
Probably at my parents' house over Christmas break. They've still got the cord connected.
They still got the core connected?
Yeah. My dad
How old are
likes-
your parents?
What?
Are they in their 70s?
Yeah. My dad is almost out of the 70s.
He's about to be 80?
Yeah. Yeah, he likes to watch his sports. Then there's, I mean, my dad loves scrolling through through the guide, seeing what's on, stuff like that. But
Mr. DL, welcome to the broadcast.
but I cut the cord years ago. It just wasn't worth it anymore.
Yeah, we cut the cord 8 years ago, 9 years ago. What do you think the future of media is? Locally. I'm focused on local here.
I mean, that's a tough one. We're losing newscasters, people that are, people that actually go out and find the stories. I would like to think that I'd like to think that at some point we'll find trustworthy names and brands that come to the forefront of news.
Well, of course. But what do you think that future is?
Like I said, I think somebody has to take the reins and prove trustworthiness, and make it a profitable business.
Not sure,
What's your forecast?
Well, I mean, I've highlighted my forecast in the past. I think the Times-Dispatch is going to be the paper of record for the Commonwealth, and the various newspapers under the Lee Enterprise umbrella are going to be bureaus of the Times-Dispatch. So I think the Daily Progress will turn into 1, 2, or 3 reporters, and they're going to funnel content to a news desk, maybe in Richmond. And that news desk is going to edit, design it, lay it out, and it's going to be print somewhere in one headquarters, and we're going to have one newspaper for the entire Commonwealth, and there'll be a Charlottesville section. There'll be a Waynesboro subsection.
And you think your kids will read the Dispatch?
I think the kids will read the Dispatch online. I don't think there's going to be a print product anymore. I think the challenge, I was having this conversation with a potential client this morning, and this potential client this morning was doing print placement for her respective business. And she mentioned to me while doing print placement for her respective business that she was getting no feedback, very little return on it, that the print ad was not reflecting the look of her brand, the color palette of her brand, and had a
Right.
QR code that was directing to the wrong landing page.
Mm-hmm.
So here you're paying for something in print. The color palette did not reflect her brand, and there was a QR code that was supposed to be the gateway link to help her monetize, to help her drive revenue and customer engagement, and the QR code was going to the wrong place.
That's crazy.
And I spoke to the static nature of what potentially this person was doing with their advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And the static nature of how, when compared to social and digital and mobile use correctly, I'm not convinced that the only local solution is going to be just the Times-Dispatch, though. I think there's going to be some other option. Like, I love what Charlottesville Tomorrow does. Seaville Tomorrow is a nonprofit news organization.
Yeah.
It's funded in large portion by grant money. Seaville Tomorrow, when Brian Wheeler was the executive director and when Sean Tubbs was working for it, covered news and land use and zoning, I thought much more timely and efficiently and newsworthy wise than what's happening now. I think and what CVille Tomorrow is doing right now is featuring potentially more long-form written content that is focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, as opposed to an education, diversity, equity, inclusion, and education, as opposed to zoning, land use, development. It's less watchdog, and it's less land use, zoning, business, government watchdog, and it's more thought-provoking DEI and education content. And there's certainly a need for education and DEI content, and why the editorial model has pivoted in that direction is because they're pursuing grant money to keep their nonprofit running in the black. And that grant money that's out there right now is tied to that kind of content. So you saw when Brian Wheeler was the executive director, he focused on the happenings inside City Hall and the happenings tied to development, land use, and zoning. And then when Brian Wheeler left to go work for City Hall, where he was a spokesperson, he was the spokesperson for a number of years for City Hall, Giles Morris took over. Giles, the former editor of the CVille Weekly, and Giles took the model from land use, zoning, and the happenings inside City Hall and local government, and he shifted that focus to content that was DEI focused that allowed the nonprofit to attract outside grant money at a greater clip. Brian's way of keeping the nonprofit alive or in the black was through donations from private individuals. And what Sean Tubbs is doing, I think Sean Tubbs is fantastic with his Charlottesville Substack, is Sean is filling the niche of what Brian and Sean used to do with the early years of Charlottesville Tomorrow.
Yeah.
The challenge is monetization to ensure the longevity of what Sean's doing.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, could Sean and Molly Cogner, Socialist Dog Mom on Twitter, who has a Patreon, Molly has a Patreon, could they join forces and create a fantastic editorial brand? I think Molly does a great job. Mm-hmm. I hope Socialist Dog Mom hears this. I think that's her Twitter handle, Socialist Dog Mom. I think she does a great job of covering what's happening inside local government by live tweeting meetings.
Yeah, no doubt.
The challenge she has is her content is specifically on the Twitter platform, or at least that's where folks know it. Yeah. And it's tough for her to monetize it outside of the Patreon that she's offering, where people kick her a monthly fee.
Right.
Like, what could happen if Sean and Molly joined forces?
No doubt.
What could happen if CVille Tomorrow, Sean, and Molly join forces? What's happening with the CVille? The CVille's newspaper headquarters is now the campaign headquarters for a president hopeful.
Does that bode well for the CVille Weekly? Do they have a new headquarters? No.
There's no new headquarters.
Wow.
What happens if their print product is continues to I'm choosing my words carefully here. Is monetizing print the way to go? I mean, the fact that the Central Virginian is for sale, the building, with an asking price of $475, is a clear indication that, and we've all known this, that the news model is doing a complete about face. When have you watched, viewers and listeners, a news broadcast recently?
I rarely watched news broadcasts back when I did have cable TV.
I mean, I'm Netflix, Prime, Peacock, Paramount Plus,
Yeah.
Apple TV, our family, Disney, ESPN app. And that gives us everything.
Almost everything.
What's missing?
Local.
It's all online.
I'm just saying, in terms of what you've got on the TV.
And the local stuff is all online. I mean, folks are mentioning to us, we're providing a lot of the localized content for them. I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that I think about. I think about it on behalf of our clients, and I think about it on behalf of it being a passion. Neil Williamson says, do you think the flagship papers, Washington Post, New York Times, Chicago Tribune, LA Times, will continue printing? I do not. I think Neil Williamson knows media inside and out like we do. He's the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. I do not. I think we are going to see I think the Wall Street Journal will continue to print. Maybe the Financial Times will continue to print. I think you could get weekly editions like maybe you see with Barron's, which is a financial periodical. Love Barron's. I think this is going to be gate-walled or paywalled. And there's ways around the paywall.
Yeah.
Should we highlight that or no? I don't think that's probably advantageous to highlight ways around the paywall, right?
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't anyways. But
It always works locally.
you're talking about...
Yeah.
I mean,
a lot of the content, if you're just in private browser, you can get.
yeah.
And then there's
That
obviously...
was what I meant. It sometimes works and sometimes
Well, you
doesn't.
know the other website, though,
Yeah,
where you can pop in the URL into the search bar, and then it scrubs the content but lets you read the words.
Yeah. That site's also good for just for sanity because it also scrubs all the ads.
Right. So if that site is scrubbing the ads and you're just reading the words, how is that content monetized appropriately to preserve the business model?
Well, even with
Are you okay? Should we? It's
even with ads,
12ft.io.
Yeah.
12ft.io. You can take it from there.
You make a lot of the monetization comes from actually clicking the ad. So if you're not clicking ads, I don't know how.
That's not true. It's sold on a cost per thousand. It's not sold on a click-through rate. See, that's not true what you said.
Are you 100% sure
This is
about that?
literally the business I'm in. It's not sold on click-through rate. It's sold on cost per thousand visibility.
Okay.
CPM. It's sold on a CPM, not on click-through rate. You know why it's not sold on click-through rate?
Because nobody clicks.
Because the click-through rate is minimal. It's positioned in a way as if it was a billboard that Lamar was selling on the side of the road. That's how this is being sold to clients. The banner ad is no different than a billboard that you see on the side of the road when you're driving down Pantops or you're passing that billboard corral on High Street next to Cosner Brothers. That's how it's being sold. And how it's being positioned as potentially being more dynamic than a billboard by advertising representatives is you could potentially click this ad and go to a website where you can't do that with a billboard on the side of the road. The problem is there's ad blockers that block billboards.
Yeah.
And there's paywall sites. There's sites that allow you to slide off paywalls. Neil Williamson says, the irony is, did J-Dub just slam ads? What is it VMV Brands does? VMV Brands creates dynamic advertising solutions that are not print ads.
Yeah.
Like, take this show right here. On screen, you see the logos of our businesses. Those cannot be blocked by an ad blocker.
Right.
We could also offer on-air or verbalized call to action messages. I don't think it's a bright, unfortunately, I don't think it's a bright future for media.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think even movies are in trouble, obviously.
Deep Throat. Local TV news is already dead, Deep Throat says. You see 23-year-old journalists trawling for quotes on Nextdoor. They don't report, they just lightly regurgitate better sources. Deep Throat also says, and for the Deep Throat, I'm not going to read this one. He basically is saying that the content is for the geriatric over 80 consumer of local news. And he suspects that the ROI of advertising in the DP is close to non-existent. He also says, I can tell you that our main trading desk no longer receives physical copies of the Wall Street Journal or Financial Times. We buy everybody online accounts. Wow. I have both for the Wall Street Journal, and I know I'm one of the last that prefers the print product, but there's something about the print. I also am a huge fan of Barron's. Like, think about it. If the digital era, if media is heading for a strictly digital era, right? And there's browsers that specialize in ad blocking or have plugins for ad blocking.
Yeah.
How can digital media be monetized?
Obviously not through websites. I think it's...
Take it a step further. VMV Brands, this behind us is an advertising agency where we drive revenue for our clients, and we're very good at doing this. Very good at doing this. Initially, with an advertising agency, the services that we were providing 16 years ago are not the services that are happening right now.
Yeah.
I want someone to help answer this question for me. If the written word, when it comes to news and covering a community, is heading strictly digital, and there's browsers and websites that specify or focus on blocking digital ad placement, how can that digital written word continue?
I think eventually it might come down to not necessarily Patreon, but patrons.
Guilt?
What?
You basically are appealing to people's guilt? Is that what you're saying?
No. What do you mean by guilt?
You said patrons?
Yeah.
Explain what you're saying here.
I'm saying that eventually it might come down to people with money saying, look, this is worth keeping going.
Yeah, you're appealing to people's guilt.
I don't see it that way, but...
All right, there's a fine line between people feeling sorry and feeling bad to keep a news organization and the accountability that comes with watchdog journalism.
Okay.
That's basically what you're saying, right? That for it to survive locally, they're going to have to appeal to folks that are extremely wealthy that are going to basically underwrite it or subsidize it.
I wasn't talking about them appealing to someone like that. I think eventually it may come down to people in local areas, people with the means, saying, look, this is a worthwhile endeavor, and it's going to go away if somebody doesn't prop it up. And that person will be basically like a news baron, somebody that I wouldn't say controls the news, but somebody that buys the media company and says, look, we're going to...
So almost synonymous with like a wealthy person who's got the vanity of owning a restaurant.
Yeah, kind of.
Who wants to say at a cocktail party, I own this restaurant.
It's a patron, like I said. I mean, there used to be, I'm sure there are still patrons, but there used to be, patrons that basically funded artists or writers or people that had a specialty that wasn't easily marketable. And I think eventually we may come to a point where people like that are going to be necessary for things like news agencies to keep going. Because you're right. How do you make money if you can't make money?
That's what I'm saying. How do you make money if the technology keeps you from making money on it?
You've got to have somebody that appreciates what you do enough to patronize and pay for the service for everyone else.
Ray Cadell watching. My 93-year-old mother reads the news online, but we do watch NBC 29 still. No print for either of us, Ray Cadell. Vanessa Parkhill says she still watches network TV and she's under 60. Vanessa, I would have guessed under 50. Queen of Earlysville. Deep Throat says, one possible future is outlets associated with political parties or causes, which has a deep history in the U.S., certainly in the early 19th century. The political entity supports the outlet as a way to basically propaganda, is what he's saying. He says the winners are the outlets with content that people will pay money for. I need the Financial Times for work, and I've also written pieces in the Financial Times, Deep Throat says. I need the Wall Street Journal's work, and I pay a couple $100 a year for each. The Daily Progress would have to pay me to inflict the brain damage, he says, on myself associated with reading their content. And I'm choosing his words. I'm substituting my words for his words. It was more scathing a commentary than he offered. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it becomes niche content.
How so?
Like, Bart Isley tried to do this with Scrimmage Play, covering Central Virginia high school sports. Could you create a robust enough digital platform and put it behind a paywall that people would support a high school sports outlet in Central Virginia?
Just for Central Virginia sports?
Central Virginia high school sports, because you can get the UVA sports anywhere. There was at a time where the Saber.com, which is owned by a friend of the program, Chris Wright, the Saber.com was the only spot that you would get UVA sports coverage. Mike Ingalls launched the Saber.com. When did the Saber launch? The Saber launched it's 25 years old. When it initially launched, its message board and its content was the spot for UVA. Now you got Jerry Ratcliffe. He and I do the Jerry and Jerry show. Mm-hmm. JerryRatcliffe.com. That's our premier source. You got 247 Sports. You got the Saber. You got Locker Room Access. You got ESPN. You got Sports Illustrated. They're all covering it.
Yeah.
It's a crowded UVA athletic space.
So you're saying that in order for other news outlets to make money, they need to find a niche that...
where they're the only one.
Yeah. But how niche is too niche? Like,
that's a problem.
Central Virginia high school sports?
It's pretty niche. But if you have a field hockey team, will two or three families on that field hockey team pay $30 a month to have coverage? And do you have enough editorial content for them to pay it?
Right.
Do you have enough editorial content for high school football? Do you have enough editorial content for volleyball or golf or soccer?
Right.
Sean is doing a great job, and he's focused primarily on land use and zoning and development.
Yeah.
How do you monetize something that seems to be unmonetizable? And does it become basically a vanity play for wealthy folks that a wealthy family or individual underwrites or subsidizes the outlet to be able to say, I am the one that's doing this, and own it?
Or just to be able to support something that they appreciate.
There you go. Let's go to John. John Blair watching the program. He says, take a look at the decline of print media in the past 20 years, and he shares a stat on LinkedIn, a link. I will check that out, John. He says, you are 100% correct, Jerry. There will not be a print product in 5 years, except for the Wall Street Journal or Financial Times. The actual trend for media and news is simply what we've seen in the past 2 decades, specialization and silos. I don't think this is a good trend, but it's true. Digital media will be monetized by subscriptions. A number of Substackers have gone to a strictly subscriber-based model. Everything is behind a paywall.
Yeah.
And the tough part of being behind a paywall is you're creating the class system of news.
Which not everybody can afford.
Not everyone's going to be able to afford the news.
Yeah.
So if you monetize and commoditize, if you make news premium behind a paywall that's 40, 50, 60 bucks a month, you are then limiting a large portion of the population reading the news, which means a small portion of the population gets the insider information. And if a small portion of the population gets the inside information, then that small portion of the population has a huge advantage over the large portion of the population that does not have that inside information. And that small portion of the population could have utilized that insider information for personal and financial gain in real time and for generations to come. Like if someone is looking to do, say, development or land use or zoning, or is looking to get into the real estate game, and if they're able to afford a monthly subscription of 50, 60 bucks and see where the trends are heading, and they're able to position their efforts opportunistically to get ahead of the folks that cannot afford the $50 or $60 and can't get that information elsewhere.
Yeah. Better investing opportunities.
Premium news could further the gentrification of society.
Yeah.
Premium paywalled news will further the wealth gap and the educational gap and expedite gentrification at potentially similar conversational levels or similar levels of increased tax assessments. That's bananas right there. Vanessa Parkhill, people funding niche content with regard to news is probably not the best for our society. We are all better off with diverse content and viewpoints in one place to avoid confirmation bias. Sadly, I'm afraid that's not where we're heading. You're exactly right, Jerry. Right. How do low-income folks get the news if everything is behind a paywall? Maybe we go back to the town crier standing in the public square. Lisa Costello is suggesting that we try Maybell's in Dyke. She says it's wonderful. Carly Wagner says Maybell's is wonderful. I don't know, something I was noodling today. I don't think the free model works. I don't think the print ad model works. It's bananas. Central Virginians for sale, $475,000. Louisa County. What are you doing this weekend? We'll get out on that note.
Let's see. I'm probably going to take Liza out somewhere, have a little fun. I'm definitely gonna get out on Sunday and enjoy the weather before the rain comes back next week.
More rain?
More rain.
I mean, the ground's already soaking saturated wet.
I know. I've been getting notifications of like 2 or 3 inches of snow on Tuesday.
I saw that.
But come on.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Did your house get flooded? Your ground level?
I don't have a basement, so I didn't notice any flooding in my area.
Don't you have that back sliding door on the back of your house?
Yeah, but it's
elevated.
Yeah, it goes out to a little porch that's probably like 2 feet off the ground.
Okay, you got a little bit of elevation there. Imagine what with that rain that we've had, if that Wendell Wood project on the Rivanna River had come to reality.
Mm-hmm.
They would be wet.
Yeah, and they could have, and it also could have affected the people downstream from them.
Right.
I'm
All right.
also a lot of my neighborhood is also kind of on hills, or not so much. I don't know. It's all kind of like a little a dell or a little valley in there. So I don't think we'd ever have a problem with flooding there.
Good. I'm
Yeah.
glad.
So am
Because
I.
there are a lot of wet basements.
Yeah. My dad used to be in basement waterproofing in Maine,
I didn't know that.
where that was also a very large problem.
Well, Monday, we're back in the saddle. Keith Smith's back. He's celebrating his birthday today with his family.
Happy birthday, Keith.
Happy birthday, Keith Smith. And we may have some news on a new talk show. That's the Friday edition of the I Love Seville show. Judah Wickhauer, Jerry Miller, thank you kindly for joining us. So long, everybody.